In this video, we're just going to do a short demo about the different statements that we need to use involving variables. All right, so the first one that we talked about was variable declaration. So we're going to go ahead and declare a variable. This variable, right, a variable declaration involves the type of the variable. And so let's just say that we need to store a whole number for whatever reason in our program. And so the type for a whole number would be int. So the variable type goes first, and then the variable name. And you, as the programmer, make up the name. Okay, and I'm just going to call this one number. So the variable names should start with a lowercase letter. Don't start them with the uppercase, right? Because remember, that's reserved for class names. So I'm going to call the variable number, and I'm going to give it, because it's a number that we want to store, I'm just going to give it a name that's, descriptive of what it is. That just helps, again, give context clues when you are trying to write a program. So it's just easier for you or somebody else who comes back later, and if you have variable descriptive names, because they can just kind of look at it and tell, what you're going to store, or what kind of things should be stored in there, or what it contains. All right, so that's the variable declaration, and I'm going to go ahead and initialize this variable. And remember what initialization means. Initialization means that you're going to give it a value, the variable a value for the very first time. So I'm going to just put the number 17, and again, I'm just making stuff up to give a simple example. So I'm going to store the number 17 inside this variable. All right, and I'm going to check that out, make sure everything's okay. So I'm going to compile it. It compiles okay. Everything looks fine. Okay. So next up, I am going to print the value of this variable. So again, to do that, all I would need to do is to put the variable name inside of a system.out.println statement and run that, compile it. And you can see when I do that, right, it prints out the value that's inside that variable number here, as opposed to the word number itself. Again, just so you can see the difference between the two, if I want the actual word number printed to the screen, then I would enclose that in quotation marks, like so. And we're going to see when we run that it's going to have the actual word number. That's when you enclose it in quotation marks. And then when it's not enclosed in quotation marks, we'll see that it looks in the variable and sees what value is stored there. All right, so that is an example of where we declare and initialize a variable and then print out the contents of a variable. Later on in the program, say you realize, okay, at this point in the program, for whatever reason, I don't want the variable to contain the number 17, but rather I want it to contain the number 32, right? Then I could do an assignment statement here again. So I want to change this variable called number, and then I want to store a 32 in there. Okay, so what I would do then is do the assignment statement. Notice that the type is not here, right? You only need the type when you're declaring the variable, using it for the very first time. So basically you're telling the compiler, hey, I want to save some space in memory, and it's going to hold numbers of the int type inside here. Later, when I'm just changing the value of the variable or doing something else with it, I do not have to put the type back in there again. So all right, and then I'm going to print it out again just to show you that the value has changed. Okay, and so here you can see that I get 3 lines printed out, right? Number from this line here, line 7, and then line 8 resulted in this. Here I changed the value of number to 32, right? And then, so next up, I've got from line 11, printed out the new value of number again. So that 17 that was gone in here, that was previously saved in the variable number, is completely gone at this point. So, and been replaced with the number 32. All right, so that's an example of an assignment statement, and those are the basic things that you're going to be doing with variables.